Welcome back to Gran Turismo, everyone. I hope you're enjoying it so far. This video is going to be the first in a series where I'll be showing you through the driving school aspect of GT Sports campaign mode. Each video will cover several events and I'll be talking about driving skills and tips for clearing the stage with gold. These videos are primarily aimed for people who may be having trouble with a specific stage. As such, you'll find navigation options on the video that can take you straight to the stage that you're looking for. Make sure you've got your annotations turned on in order to use that. Otherwise, hopefully there'll be something you can learn from just watching on through. Enjoy. Lesson number 1 has us simply starting and crossing the line as fast as possible. For these types of tests, I actually find using traction control helps with the launch. Whilst I normally race without traction control, it does have a very good effect for standing start launches, as it can fluctuate the throttle hundreds of times faster than we can, so it allows you to put down the power much quicker off the blocks. I set it to 1 and that seems to work just fine. And then as for the launch, I simply lay down the throttle to the ground and keep it in first gear for just a bit longer than feels natural, as the car is actually quite slow to upshift to second, and then staying in second gear doesn't quite take you to the line, so hit third and it should be a simple gold. For lesson 2, it's much the same deal as lesson 1, only with a very gentle slalom added in. Again, using traction control at 1, launch with full throttle and just ease the car around the walls, trying not to use too much steering input. Remember to shift up to second gear later than what kind of seems natural and drive it up to third and across the line. Lesson 3 is an extension of Lesson 2, so adding an extra gate to the path. As before, traction control set to 1 and give it full throttle off the line. Shift late up to second gear and try to keep a smooth, tight line around the wall so time isn't lost on a wider arc or on any kind of wheel slippage. And you should find it's very similar to Lesson 2. For the 4th test, you'll need to bring your car to a standstill. So once again, I'm using traction control 1. The lesson to learn from these types of tests is to pick a braking point. You'll see that they've laid out numerous markers on either side, so you should be looking at these to determine your braking point. This is something that is really important if you want to improve your racing on the track, as it'll allow you to lay down much more consistent lap times. My brake marker for this one are the red cones, and you want to go fully off the throttle and fully onto the brakes. To add on to this, since we're coming to a complete halt as your speed becomes very low, I find a few pulls on the handbrake helps to bring the car to a standstill faster. Just be careful about pulling it fully on, as you can lock out the wheels and likely just have the opposite effect. Test 5 is 100 meter stopping, so it's the same job as 4 with traction control on 1. I shift to second, and this time I put the brakes on as I drive past the blue cone markers, and again giving a small pull to the handbrake as I come to a stop. In test 6, you've got 200 meters to cover, so your stopping distance is going to be longer. Again, with traction control on 1, launch and shift late to second gear, but I actually then leave it in second, as shifting to third becomes fairly pointless as the brake marker is about to come up. My brake marker is just fractionally after the 50 meter boards, but before the white cones. Remember to downshift to allow the engine braking to aid your stop, and a few more quick pulls on the handbrake as you come to a stop. The next lesson raises the stakes a little, so it's swapping out a GT86 for a Bugatti Veyron. It's still 200 meters, but you'll be travelling with just a little bit more momentum, and Veyrons aren't exactly made out of paper. So traction control on 1 will help you, and as in the previous test, I let the engine hit the limiter in second rather than changing to third. My braking mark for this was the yellow cones, and again pulling the handbrake a couple times just for good measure. Don't forget to shift down to first so the engine braking can kick in. So the final test of this row, test 8, and you get to actually drive on the track for this one. Now that we don't have to deal with standing starts, I strongly recommend learning to drive without the traction control. This is a good time to practice using your markers in a more realistic situation, and they give you some more cones to make that a little bit easier. The corner itself is a straightforward flat out corner, however the car doesn't have a great deal of grip, so whilst you can take it flat out, you might find that the car is sliding or losing control a bit. I find that just lifting off the accelerator about 50% as I came through the apex allowed the car to run much smoother, and the time allowed is fairly generous either way. Use the single cone on the left as your turn-in marker. You should be apexing at the second cone on the right, ignoring the first, and finish nice and wide on the left. If you're new to racing, this is the classic racing line for cornering. So that wraps up 1 to 8 of driving school. You'll receive a prize car for your efforts, and each test rewards a small amount of the various in-game currencies. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Good luck with the tests, and if you have any feedback, do be sure to leave that in the comments and rate the video.